So I decided that I'm going to do something different with the Classic PPV review series, and decided that I'm going to do this only for the TNA Bound for Glories, and that I'm going to review the rest of the Bound for Glories that are not up on my channel. I've already reviewed Bound for Glories 2011 to 2013 that I did live when they first happened, and I already reviewed Bound for Glory 2005, which I did Sunday night on my channel. But I decided that I'm going to review 2006 through 2010 Bound for Glories and just kind of give you my thoughts on TNA throughout the years when it came down to these shows and what I thought about TNA at the time and all that. Because I really want people to know and understand I do love Impact Wrestling. I do love TNA. I may not review it every week on my channel. It may be hard for me to review, but I'm sorry. 2014 TNA, it's not good to me. It's really, really hard to watch the current product of TNA. Some of you guys may think, oh, it's really good right now, and I say bullshit. This TNA around this time was good. The TNA we get now is just not good whatsoever. It's more of the same crap that you would expect from TNA over the fucking years. And I'll talk about that in a different video. And after watching Bound for Glory 05 and actually reviewing Bound for Glory 05, I automatically went to Bound for Glory 06. Like, I went to go watch that show. I said to myself, man, I had fun watching Bound for Glory 05. The show wasn't really that great, but man, I had fun watching that. So I went in, watched Bound for Glory 06. I just said, fuck it, I'm going to go watch Bound for Glory 2006 because I feel like it. And then afterwards, I got a craving to watch Bound for Glory 07. I said to myself, look, if I'm going to go watch Bound for Glory 07, like Wednesday, might as well just review the rest of the Bound for Glories. Might as well just review the whole Bound for Glories up until 2010. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys who are TNA fans. And I hope some of you guys will kind of understand where I'm coming from with my frustrations of TNA over the years and kind of understand why I may not review every single Impact. You know, it's not because I think TNA is terrible or I'm just a WWE fanboy. It is because I miss the old TNA, and I wish this was the TNA we were getting. Now, Bound for Glory 2006, let me just say, this arguably is one of the best Bound for Glories. It arguably is. It's really hard to call this a great show when you look at the company's history and where they went after this Bound for Glory. It really is hard to call this a great show. Standalone, without any company history, this is a great show. But when you add the company history to it and what happened afterwards with the show, it kind of goes down to just being a good to okay show. Which is the case sometimes when you look at these old pay-per-views. Sometimes, you know, one pay-per-view you thought was really great, you go back and you watch and you say, man, what happened to this guy? What happened to that guy? They were doing such good things with this guy as champion. Why didn't they keep him champion longer? It's really hard to consider a show good to great if you look at the future and you say, man, it didn't turn out well. And we're allowed to use history in these classic reviews. That's what the history is there for. We are allowed to look at what happens in the future. We are living in the future. We are living in the present time. If I go look back in the past, I'm allowed to use what's going on currently to talk about stuff in the past. So this is a really good show. It still is, even if you look at TNA's future. But it's just kind of depressing at the same time, if you get what I'm saying. But I did find myself enjoying this show. So let's get started with the Bound for Glory 06 review. We kick off the show with the Kevin Nash X Division Open Invitational Battle Royale. You're fighting for a bowling trophy that Kevin Nash won. Kevin Nash was hilarious on commentary. This match is good for many reasons, okay? You get to feature a lot of your X Division guys like Jay Lethal. You have Austin Starr in this match. Sanjay Dutt, Alex Shelley, who was Kevin Nash's boy at the time with the paparazzi camera. Oh, I love that Alex Shelley. I know a lot of people like the Motor City Machine Gun Shelley, but I love the paparazzi Shelley. I thought he had some great ideas with that fucking gimmick. That paparazzi idea was just brilliant to me. But anyways, Kevin Nash, you know, had this open X Division Invitational Tournament. This was at a time when Kevin Nash thought he was a part of the X Division because the X Division was about not weight limits, but no limits. And so Kevin Nash on commentary was fucking hilarious as well. It adds to the match. Kevin Nash talking about how he's been working on his moonsault and he's ready to go to the top rope to show his excellent work rates. It's like, oh, God. Zach Gallo makes an appearance in this match, but ultimately the right guy goes over. The man who started this match ends up winning. Austin Starr wins this match. Austin Starr is also known as Austin Aries for a lot of you guys who don't know. Austin Aries' first run in TNA was kind of a so-so run. It was kind of whatever. He had his fair share of shots, but he didn't really do all that well. And so he came back as this Austin Star gimmick, and it was actually different and unique. It was cool. He was a guy who loved classic TV. And you actually thought they were going to do something with this Austin Star gimmick, but in the end, TNA didn't really do anything with this gimmick. Up next, we got a random Fatal 4-Way with a bunch of tag teams that weren't going for the tag team titles. You had Team 3D take on America's Most Wanted, take on the James Gang, otherwise known as the New Age Outlaws, taking on the Naturals. I believe that there was a match like this supposed to happen at another pay-per-view, another Fatal 4-Way tag team match, but all of a sudden a fire broke out in the arena, so they had to evacuate some people, and the match didn't take place. I don't know if this carried over to Bound for Glory 2006. I forgot. But I just remember these were just teams that just wanted to battle just for the sake of battling because they want to prove who was the better team. And, of course, Team 3D ain't doing the job here, brother. They end up winning this match over the rest of the teams. And you could say it was the right decision because, let's face it, Team 3D, they wanted to build up as their big tag team for TNA, which you could argue makes sense, but hey, why not AMW or the Naturals get the win here? I don't know. But Team 3D gets the win, and at least the James Gang take the fall. Up next, Monsters Ball 3. The most random group of competitors. Like, this match kind of pisses me off a little bit because Samoa Joe's in this match. Now I'm saying to myself, you couldn't find anything better to do with Samoa Joe. You couldn't find something else for the Samoan Submission Machine to do. I mean, we all know what they wanted to do with Samoa Joe. They were waiting for that Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle match. That's what they were waiting for. They were waiting for that Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe match. At the time, Kurt Angle did come to TNA. It was like, holy crap, Kurt Angle signed with this fucking company. And at the time, in 2006 WWE, around this time, John Cena was having his little reign of terror start up. You know, there was nothing really going interesting on SmackDown. ECW was an abortion of what it was supposed to be. So really, to be honest, when people heard Kurt Angle sign with TNA, everyone was so excited, especially after the first time you saw Kurt Angle in TNA. Kurt Angle headbutts Samoa Joe, and you're like, oh shit, Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe is going down. But it doesn't happen at Bound for Glory. No, instead, they had this weird storyline where Samoa Joe took the NWA championship because he felt like he was a proper NWA champion. He was walking away with the belt and all that stuff. And then afterwards, Jeff Jarrett got the belt back. But then Jim Cornette, who was the manager at the time, made a fans' revenge match, and the fans whipped Jeff Jarrett. Samoa Joe ends up winning the match against Jeff Jarrett, even though it wasn't for the NWA title. It was stupid. I really thought they should have had Joe face Jeff Jarrett at this pay-per-view. That's just my opinion. I mean, you could have done something else with Samoa Joe here. You could have had Samoa Joe take on Jeff Jarrett, and you could have had a certain individual in the main event take on Abyss in a one-on-one match. But no, let's just throw Samoa Joe in this Monsters Ball match with Abyss, Brother Runt, otherwise known as Spike Dudley, and Raven. And they brought back Raven. And there's a certain individual on this show that Raven could have feuded with. But instead, they don't do anything with Raven when he comes back. They make him form Serotonin a little bit later on, but they don't do anything with Raven once he comes back besides throw him in a random Monsters Ball. And Brother Runt, I forgot why in the blue hell he was in here. Oh yeah, and by the way, Jake the Snake Roberts, who was refereeing this match. Samoa Joe ends up winning in a good brawl. This was a good brawl for a Monsters Ball match. It was. But when I just look at this match, I just say, you could have done this with Abyss. You could have done this with Samoa Joe. You could have done this with Raven. But instead, you did other stuff with them. And the other stuff I didn't really like all that much. Oh, well. Let's talk about who Raven should have faced. Eric Young defeated Larry Zbyszko in a loser gets fired match. Now, if you guys remember from the Bound for Glory 05 review, I talked about how Raven and Larry Zbyszko had a feud because Raven got screwed out of the NWA Championship at a house show thanks to Larry Zbyszko, and Raven wanted to get his revenge on Larry Zbyszko and destroy Larry Zbyszko. You could have ended the feud here. Boy, that was a year-long feud. Let's end it here. Sure, maybe some fans weren't interested in it, but hell, for me as a TNA fan, you could have ended the feud here. But you didn't. Like, once Raven came back into the company, he forgot that he cared about the NWA title. He didn't really give a shit about the NWA title anymore. No, he was just there to form Serotonin and be weird. He forgot all about Larry Zbyszko and his problems. I think they only mentioned it one episode of Impact, Raven and Larry Zbyszko's problems, and that was it. They didn't do anything else with it afterwards. You thought, oh shit, they're going to do something with Raven and Larry Zbyszko, but they didn't. Oh, God. And Eric Young, the only reason why he was in this match because they were running the storyline, don't fire Eric, don't fire Eric, don't fire Eric. And I couldn't stand Eric Young at this time, man. This was the worst Eric Young gimmick to me. Eric Young was paranoid. He was afraid of everything. You know, he was afraid of Sting. He was the reason why Planet Jarrett was kind of crumbling. At this time, Planet Jarrett was not really a happy little planet. It was about to explode. And because Eric Young was the main problem, he turned babyface, left Team Canada, and it was just like, I get it. The fans were responding to Eric Young. I understand. But it wasn't like Eric Young was going to be anything for you at the time. You weren't going to push Eric Young to that next level, and which I mean is either an X Division title or at least maybe a shot at the world title, not becoming world champion. Oh, wait, that happened in 2014. But anyways, Eric Young beats Larry Zbyszko. Larry Zbyszko's gone. Bye-bye, Larry Zbyszko. And that's it. It was not satisfying. It wasn't good. Eric Young wasn't going to get fired. He was going to stay with the roster. But like I said, they never capitalized anything with Eric Young afterwards. Up next, we get a nice X Division Championship match between Chris Sabin and Senshi. This was a good in-ring match. If you like the in-ring, you're going to enjoy this match. The only stupid thing about this match was that Chris Sabin was promoting Jackass around this time. I don't know why. TNA had like this weird promotion with Jackass. And they had a bunch of stupid stuff with Jackass 2 implemented in it. It was a nice idea and concept at the time, but for me as a wrestling fan, I just thought it was stupid. You know, Jackass, it's funny when you're like 14 years old, but when you're looking at it as an adult, I can see how you think it's stupid. And really, to be honest, it was stupid that there was some Jackass foolery in this match. But Senshi had a good run as X Division champion. He was definitely a legit force in the X Division. You're kind of thinking that they were going to rebuild him as kind of like a Samoa Joe light. When Loki came back as Senshi, you were like, oh, it's like a Samoa Joe light. He's like winning all these matches against X Division stars, but you never thought that he would become, you know, like the world champion or anything. But yeah, it was a good match. That's all I can say about it. Now, to me, the match of the night, Christian Cage and Rhino in the 8 Mile Street fight. Now, this was perfect storytelling here. Now, you guys know I'm not the biggest Rhino fan. I'm not, okay? I'm sorry. I'm just not a big Rhino fan. But I've always liked Christian. And Christian, when he first came to TNA, I'll say this, he was a game changer for TNA. Though the one guy that I always defend when they said that they hotshot the title to a former WWE guy, the one guy that I always support that they hotshot the title to was Christian. Because at the time in 2005, I said this in past videos too, I've always argued that you could have given Christian one run as a world champion in the WWE. I'm not talking about a long-ass title run. I'm saying like 1 or 2 months as your world champion. You could have. He was hot. He was over. People loved the Peep show. People loved Christian around in 2005. And WWE, they really didn't get it. And Christian decided to leave. He was burnt out. He went down to TNA, and he put up some of the best work in his career. A lot of Christian fans will agree that his TNA run is probably some of his best work in his career, and they look back at it fondly, just like I do. And I was fine with them giving him the NWA Championship, and especially this slow fucking turn to turn him heel. This was perfect stuff. You had it where Christian was a long-time NWA champion. He enters a King of the Mountain match, and then after a little scuffle with Sting over the NWA title, you know, that cost Christian the belt because Jeff Jarrett afterwards got out of the penalty box and hanged the belt up high, and that's how Christian lost the belt. You're seeing a slow turn for Christian. He was blaming everyone else for his problems. He was arguing with his wife. They did some fucking great shit with this. And then Rhino, he got involved. He's like, hey, man, what's going on? We've been friends forever. We've been on the road together and all this stuff. What's going on with you? Come on, Christian, tell me. And then Christian turns heel right then and there. He is angry at everyone and everything. He feels like everyone's costing him his chance to be the real star of TNA. Good fucking shit. Rhino had enough of it. Rhino goes and decides to challenge Christian in his backyard, Detroit City, in an 8 Mile Street fight. And this was a perfect venue to make Christian into that ultimate heel for your company besides Jeff Jarrett. Because besides Jeff Jarrett, TNA really didn't have any heels in the main event scene. It was like Jeff Jarrett, Abyss, kind of, because fans kind of liked Abyss. They would cheer Abyss. But other than that, you know, nothing else. But Christian, this was perfect. Rhino got resoundingly cheered. Christian got resoundingly booed. They worked a fucking great match together. You had it with Christian concertoed Rhino under all this fucking shit, like a ladder, a stop sign, and all this other crap. And Christian ends up getting the win. This is a great match. The match of the night for Bound for Glory 2006 to me. The heel turn was perfect. It was the right decision to turn Christian heel. A lot of people will agree that Christian probably plays a better heel than he does a babyface. I say he plays a fine babyface, but a lot of people will enjoy his heel work as well. So this was a great maneuver. Great job by TNA. Nothing to complain about this match whatsoever. Up next, a personal favorite of mine, the Latin American Exchange, taking on the tag team champions, the NWA tag team champions of AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. Now, at the time, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels won the belts at Slammiversary after beating longtime champions and AMW in an awesome match. And if I ever review Slammiversary 06, I will talk fondly about that match because it's a great tag team wrestling match for sure. And, you know, AJ and Daniels, after being rivals for so many years, they joined forces. They were best friends, an unstoppable team. No one can beat them. And here was the Latin American Exchange. And this is what good wrestling is the Latin American Exchange. They weren't about, you know, the whole race war. You know, some people always get these race gimmicks mixed up, and they don't look deep into them. The Latin American Exchange was not all about, we're Mexican and we're angry at everything. No, the Latin American Exchange hated the Gringo society, hated how people looked at the Gringos as the top guys, hated that they were being held down, and they said the Gringos, they don't like listening to words. When we speak, you guys don't like to listen. You guys love violence, so we're going to answer with violence. The Latin American Exchange was a great team, an edgy team, and something that you needed in professional wrestling. WWE was not doing anything Latin American Exchange. They were doing nothing that was compared to the Latin American Exchange. The Latin American Exchange were hot at the fucking time. And it shows how good of heels that they were, because they weren't get the hell off my TV type of heat. You hated them because you knew they were right, but you didn't want to accept that they were right. You didn't want to accept Conan had a fucking point on the microphone. You just hated them because they kept talking and talking and talking and all that other crap. It wasn't get the fuck off my TV heat, because it never got to the point where the Latin American Exchange was a team that the fans just didn't want to see, or trying to beat up outside of the impact zone or be harsh towards. They understood the act. They understood the gimmick. You're allowed to go edgy in professional wrestling. The LAX is one of the most edgiest teams in professional wrestling. I don't think gets enough credit or enough fucking love. This shit was awesome. And when it comes down to it with the LAX, this is something we need in professional wrestling today. People don't understand. Edgy stuff like this is fine for a TV show. Wrestling, at the end of the day, is a fucking TV show. It is. It's a TV show. We're watching on our TVs. We pay for it. Yes, these are real people doing real stunts and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a TV show being produced by someone, right? It's on our televisions. It gets ratings. It gets money. It gets advertisement fees. It's a TV show. These are characters. You know, maybe sometimes, yes, some superstars add their real life persona to their characters. But really, to be honest, they're TV characters at the end of the day. And the LAX was just perfect for TV. They were great fucking television. And this 6 sides of steel match, you know, the feud building up to it, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, they were the perfect guys to put over the LAX here. Because AJ Styles, arguably TNA's #1 fucking franchise boy. Christopher Daniels, at the time, you could argue was like #3 or #4 on the TNA, you know, wheel. They were the gringos that were always featured in the X division. They were guys who main evented many pay-per-views together. Fuck yeah. Have LAX take on AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. Put Homicide and Hernandez over in the 6 sides of steel match. In Detroit, they loved the LAX. Oh, this was hilarious. When AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels came out the booth, they were like, oh shit. And then all of a sudden you hear the pew, pew, pew of the LAX. The fans like, wow! They were hyped for the LAX here tonight. They wanted the Latin American Exchange. So when Detroit knew what LAX was all about, they were saying, these guys are fucking legit. We want to see them do shit. So I always thought it was hilarious when LAX got the most resounding cheers of the night when it came down to it. They got a huge fucking pop from that Detroit crowd because the fans, they wanted to see them succeed. LAX versus AJ Styles and Daniels. It's a good match. LAX goes over in the right way. LAX becomes the tag team champions, and a great team becomes champions out of this. This is fucking good shit. If you guys don't appreciate or understand the LAX, go fucking watch them again. They were fucking awesome. Alrighty then. It's time to talk about the main event. God. This is some of my many problems with TNA over the years. And it features, you know, all three individuals in this match. It really does. Oh, God. You know, like I said earlier, standalone, Bound for Glory 06. If you don't look at any history of TNA, standalone, great fucking show. You know, a lot of good in-ring action, you know, storylines and all that stuff. It's great standalone with no looking into the history. But when you look into the history, it's just like when you watch this main event, you say to yourself, same old shit. You know, for all you WWE fans that get tired of seeing John fucking Cena in the main event and get sick and tired of seeing the same motherfuckers being featured in the main event scene. Well, here in 2006, and when I get to the Bound for Glory 07 review, you guys will know what I'm talking about. And then when we get to the 08 review and the 09 review, it's the same fucking shit in the same fucking main event, doing the same fucking thing. Sting versus Jeff Jarrett. With Kurt Angle as a special enforcer. Look, I get it. At the time, Sting was hot. Fans were digging Sting. But TNA, you oversaturated Sting. You really did oversaturate this motherfucker. And I'll talk about that in later Bound for Glory reviews when I do them on my channel. You oversaturated and you had Sting welcome to stay way too long in TNA. I was fine at the time with the decision of Sting becoming the NWA champion over Jeff Jarrett. The match itself, let me just tell you about the match. Standalone, not looking into history, pretty good match. Kurt Angle served his role perfectly and stuff like that. But looking into history, it's another TNA main event that feels way too overbooked, where you really don't care who wins or lose. You're happy for the guy who wins, and you're like, yay, but at the same time, you don't know what the fuck they're going to do with him further down the line. They didn't know what the fuck to do with Sting as champion. That's why Sting, at the next fucking pay-per-view, dropped it to Abyss. I'm sorry, like, just this main event, seeing Sting and Jeff Jarrett, you know, like I said, standalone, the match is really good. It's standalone when you look at the match, it's really good, but really, just watching this, I'm like, God damn. I have to review other Bound for Glories, and this motherfucker is still in the main event. Really, was it that hard to have Samoa Joe take on Jeff Jarrett here? Was it that fucking hard to just give Samoa Joe a rub here? I mean, Samoa Joe beat him at the last pay-per-view with no title on the line. Wouldn't you think Samoa Joe is the rightful #1 contender, and you should have Samoa Joe take on Jeff Jarrett? That way, when you get to Samoa Joe and fucking Kurt Angle, it would be an awesome match for the NWA Championship. Hell, even at the time, you know, TNA was losing their rights with the NWA. NWA didn't want to be any part of TNA anymore, and so TNA was bringing in their own belts. Wouldn't you think that would be a cool TNA title match? Would be Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, first time ever? You know, have Joe be dominant, have Kurt Angle try to build up his dominance, and you have those two go at it, first time ever, blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm saying? But no, you don't even do that. You have Sting win here after no selling a guitar shot by Jeff Jarrett. Kurt Angle gets way too involved in the match. Sting wins, and you hear that theme song that's going to be known as the TNA title theme song, because almost every TNA title match that features Sting, it always ends with that theme song reigning supreme at the end of the day. It's really hard watching this main event, and it's really hard to endorse this main event to anyone, because really, to be honest, it feels like the same old shit. You know, if I can go back and watch WWE pay-per-views and say it feels like the same old shit watching John Cena defend the title, I can say the same fucking shit when it comes to Sting going for the TNA title and winning the TNA title. These are the reasons why TNA hasn't been successful. Because instead of producing younger stars in these roles, you decide to fucking focus on a Sting and fucking focus on a Kurt Angle and focus on a Jeff Jarrett. And don't get me wrong, yes, focusing on Kurt Angle at the time made sense because he was a really hot act and really big at the time. But really, to be honest, you oversaturated these superstars further down the road. And we will talk about that in the Bound for Glory 07 review, which I will upload whenever I'm done watching Bound for Glory 07. Thank you all who watched this video. If you guys liked this video, give it a big old thumbs up. Comment down below what you thought about Bound for Glory 06. I know these reviews will tend to go long, but there's some stuff I would like to talk about in these reviews, so I hope you don't mind the longness of these videos. I'll be sure once we get to certain Bound for Glories to shorten them up a little bit. But thank you all very much for watching this video. If you guys like me, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at ChaseOver68. Check out my website, chillingwithchase.com. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.